thank you everybody for your time today. I really appreciate that. So for those that have never seen Gradescope and are seeing it for the first time, Gradescope is an online grading tool that not only allows you to grade work submitted online, but it's also going to allow you to grade paper-based work that's been submitted to you in person as well. So it's going to allow you to grade all sorts of assignments, from exams to quizzes. We have online assignments, and we're going to see how a lot of that works today, but it also works really well for student-uploaded work, homework, lab reports, book problems. And then we also have programming assignments. If we have any computer science or engineering folks in here too, students can submit code. And we have bubble sheet exams or Scantron-like multiple choice exams. So if you're looking for a Scantron replacement, Gradescope can do that for you as well. We have bubble sheet templates up to 200 questions that students can print up and bring to class, or you could print up and hand out. But we've got a lot available for you. So as you can see here, I'm inside my Gradescope account. One thing I just want to mention here, anytime you're in your Gradescope account, you can click on this account button down here in the bottom left and click on this Getting Started guide. That's going to take you to this page here that has links to almost everything you'll need to do inside Gradescope. And each of these links has video, as well as some step-by-step instructions. And we even have some student-facing items in here as well. Now, the question also might be like, how do I get started? You do have integration set up in Canvas, so you can create your account and create your courses and roster your students all through Canvas as well. So I just wanted to mention that. Again, I got to this Getting Started page by just clicking on this account button down here and clicking on Getting Started. So what I want to do in here, I'm going to jump into this course here, and just really quickly, I want to discuss the different assignment types that are available to you. I mentioned them a little bit there, but we have an exam quiz, and this is what we call a templated fixed length assignment, in that we know where our students are going to answer. So it would look something like this, and this is actually what we're going to grade here in a second. This would be a quiz that I would hand out in the classroom. My students would handwrite in their answers, and I'd be able to see whatever they write on their paper. So regardless of what discipline you teach, whether it's chemistry and you're asking them to draw the Lewis structure, or you've just got multiple choice or select all, or maybe anatomy charts, diagrams, what have you, you'll be able to see whatever they write and be able to grade them. And we're going to walk through that here in a second. We also have homework problem sets. If you need students just to submit scratch paper, maybe into chapter questions, that type of thing, you'd be able to see their scratch paper and you'd be able to grade them. Like I mentioned, we have bubble sheet exams. So all you'd have to do is create your answer key inside Gradescope. Students would fill in their bubbles, pass it back to you, or they can submit it online, and Gradescope will automatically grade it for you. We have programming assignments. Students can submit code. You can manually grade their code. You can use or add what we call an auto grader, where the instructor actually submits code and tests, and it will automatically let students know if they've failed tests or passed tests, and it gives them immediate feedback. There is also code similarity, where you can actually see side-by-side comparisons of those students in your course that have submitted to that assignment, and you can see student A's lines 1 through 5 of their code match student B's lines 11 through 15 of their code, and it gives you an overall similarity score for them as well. We also have online assignments, and this is where students would actually answer questions live in Gradescope. Questions like short answer, free response, multiple choice, select all, and file upload questions. And for the file upload questions, students can actually submit any file type they want, whether it's a PDF or Word doc, Excel, .heic, an audio file or a video file. You'd be able to see them and grade them. Now, so what I want to do here is I want to walk you through how to use Gradescope to grade, and specifically, we're going to go ahead and grade this quiz here. So here I'm inside my assignments tab. Here's my assignment I want to grade. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that assignment and open it up. Great question. So a hard copy exam that's given in the classroom and handed back to the instructor, how is that associated with the student? So actually what you do is you scan them all in as a PDF, and Gradescope will actually assign them to students for you. And if we've got the time, and I think we will, I'll walk through that process for you. Okay, so I clicked on my assignment, I opened it up, and that launches me into my grading my submissions. When we create a brand new assignment, we start with editing the outline and we move through these steps. So we're jumping ahead a little bit here. But here's each question on that quiz we just saw. So to start grading, all I need to do is choose the question I want to grade first. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this question here. You can see it's opened up and I can see my students' handwritten work here. If I zoom out, I can actually see more area of the page. And here's my student submission, both pages. So I can see whatever they've written. Now, the reason why it zoomed in on this box is because during this edit outline portion, when I created the assignment, I told the system, this is where my students are going to be answering this question. And that way it zooms in for me. So I don't have to go flipping through pages or hunting for answers. And again, this is what we call a templated fixed length assignment because we know where students are going to answer. If this was scratch paper, I would actually just see their entire page and I'd be able to grade them. But for templated fixed length assignments, it's going to zoom in, but I can obviously zoom out if I need to. And I know this is a math question and probably not everyone here is a math instructor. But again, rest assured that the grading functionality works exactly the same regardless of the discipline you teach. So even if this was handwritten code and maybe a handwritten paragraph for an essay or a chart or what have you, whatever they put on that paper, you'll be able to see and grade it. Now, the way that Gradescope is going to have you grade is you're going to grade the same answer for the same question for every student. Then you'll move on to the next question. The feedback we get there is it really helps to speed up the grading process, but also helps to ensure you're grading all your students using the same criteria. If you need to jump between questions, you can click this little drop down here, and I could jump to another question and start grading it whenever I want to. But at this point, I am ready to start grading. My question is, what is the integral of x? And 1/2 x squared plus c is the correct answer. So to score this student and give them 3 out of 3 points, I'm going to click on this one and take away 0 points because they're correct. You can see I've now just scored them 3 out of 3. Down here in the bottom right corner, if I click next ungraded, it moves me to my next student's answer. Now this student's missing the half. So over here on the right, I'm going to click add rubric item, and I'm going to type in here missing 1/2. And I'm going to say that's worth missing 1 point. And now to grade this student, I can click on this 2 to take away 1 point, score them 2 out of 3. And then down here in the bottom right corner, I can click next ungraded. And now I'm seeing my next student's answer. And you'll notice now I've graded 2 out of 20 students and my rubric's following me. So as I create my rubrics, my grading is going to become that much faster. Now this student got it correct as well. So again, I could just click on 1 and click next ungraded, or I can start using keyboard shortcuts. So whatever number or letters inside these boxes, that's your keyboard shortcut. So if I just hit 1 on my keyboard, you can see I just scored them 3 out of 3. And the shortcut for next ungraded, if you hover over it, is Z. So if I just hit Z, it moves me to my next student's answer. So for this question, my student is missing the C. So over here on the right, I'm going to click add rubric item, and I'm going to type in here missing C. And I'm going to go ahead and say that too is worth missing 1 point. Now you also have these helpful little annotation buttons up here. If I click on this T, I can actually add a comment and grade them. So if I click that comment button, you can see here are my rubrics, the same as over here on the right. I can type in here missing C. And if I want to add a comment in here, I could write, missing constant if I want to. And I can add that in there. And I can move these wherever I want. And I can add as many comments as I want. And as I start to add comments, it'll start saving them for me in a little drop down so I can easily apply them to other students when I need to. I also have a little pencil icon. If I click on that, I can actually write into the student's paper. If you're using a tablet and stylus, that's fine too. And I have a highlighting button here as well. So if I click on that, I can highlight any area of the page. And then I also have an eraser. If I click on that, I can erase anything I want to. But students will be able to see this when they open up their graded assignment. If I move over here on the right, I'm going to scroll down a bit. You also have the ability to give students submission-specific adjustments. So if I thought this student and this student alone deserved an extra 0.5 point, I could click on this line and type in 0.5 and give this student an extra 0.5 point. I can also leave comments in this field. If I wanted to say, see me after class, students will be able to see these comments when they open up their graded assignment. And it'll start saving these comments in this dropdown going forward so I can apply them to other students when I need to. If you ever need to delete a rubric, you can click on this little red X. If you're ever curious just to which students did you apply a specific rubric to, if you click this little magnifying glass, it'll show you a list of all the students you applied that rubric to. And if you have multiple TAs in here grading all at once, that's fine. They can do that. They can all be grading this same question at the same time. And if you click on this little magnifying glass, not only will it show you which students you applied the rubric to, but it'll tell you who graded them and who applied that rubric. So very easy to do. And when it comes to multiple graders, if they're in here at the same time grading, when they click next ungraded, it's exactly that. They'll see the next answer that needs to be graded. They're not going to have to click through previously graded items. It's going to help them leapfrog over each other so they can grade that much faster. I think there was a question. If you change the amount deducted for a rubric, will it automatically update for all the previously applied? Yes, that is what I'm about to cover here. Great question, though. Okay, so at this point, though, I've now graded my student. I've added my comments. I can go ahead and hit Z for the next student's answer. Now, this student's missing the half and the C. So if I wanted to, I can click 2 and 3 and take away a point for each. We have some instructors that create 10 to 15 rubric items and click on 6 to 8 of them to grade their students. It's completely up to you. But one thing that Gradescope also does is it gives you statistics and it'll show you averages on your rubric items as well. So I'm going to create a new rubric item for those folks that missed both, just so I can see those averages down the line. So I'm going to write in here, missing 1/2 and C. And I'm going to say that that's worth missing all 3 points. Now I'll go ahead and score them. And then I want to tell them to see me after class too. So I'll hit apply previously used comments and click see me after class. Now you may have noticed what we're using here is negative scoring. So our students are starting out with 3 points and we're taking away points for what they got incorrect. If you click on this rubric settings button here, I could change this to positive scoring if I want to. Now my students start off with 0 points and I'm giving them points for what they got correct. And if I'm using positive scoring, I can create negative rubric items. If I'm using negative scoring, I can create positive rubric items. I just need to put a little plus or minus before that score. If we click on that rubric settings button again, you can also control score bounds. So with this box checked for the ceiling, this question's worth 3 points. Students can't receive a score higher than 3. If I uncheck this box, I could give them extra credit if I want to. Likewise, with the floor check, they can't receive a score less than 0. And if you know you're going to be grading and changing the defaults, and you'll probably keep using the same defaults, you can always go to your course settings tab, and you can update these so that every time you open up an assignment to grade it, these are already loaded for you. Yeah, so it's really that easy. And the course settings tab can be found in the main, where the dashboard and the assignments list in your roster. That's where you can find your course settings if you ever need to update those items. At this point, I will go ahead and hit next ungraded or Z on my keyboard. Now this student didn't attempt. So over here on the right, I'm going to click add rubric item and I'm going to type in there, did not attempt. And I'm going to say that too is worth missing 3 points. Now I'll go ahead and score them. You may have noticed when creating the rubric, you have some other options in here too. If you need to use LaTeX or LaTeX, you can click this little button. It'll give you your dollar signs and you could add X squared in there, for example, if you want to. You can also bold, you can italicize, add code, and you can add images. So maybe for those students that didn't attempt, I took a picture of the correct answer on a piece of paper with my phone. And I want to add that in here for those students that didn't even attempt it. So I'm going to click add image, go select my image, and I'm going to go find my image of the integral of X and click upload. And now it's going to upload that so students can see that as well. You also have the ability to create 0 rubric items if you want to. So maybe for those folks that didn't attempt, I want to create an item that's worth 0, but I'm also going to check it. And I'm going to say, you know, if you did not attempt, please watch this video. And then you could add a link in here. So they would be able to see that they didn't attempt it, they missed 3 points, and they can see that it didn't take away any points, but I need them to watch this video. And if you know how to use Markdown, you can add that in there as well. When it comes to rubric visibility, by default, students are going to see every rubric item you've created. Or you can choose that they see only the rubric items you've applied to them, or you can choose that they see no rubric items at all and just the score. Those are your 3 options. And to make those changes, whenever you're in your assignment, down here you have a little settings button. If you click on settings, you can go in and choose your rubric item visibility. Okay, so now I've graded this student, so I'll go ahead and hit Z on my keyboard and move me to my next student's answer. This student got it correct, so I can just hit 1 and Z. This student's missing the C, I can hit 3 and Z. Now this student's missing the half and the C. So again, I could have clicked on 2 and 3, but I decided to create a rubric item for those folks that missed both. But maybe I have 200 students and I've already graded 100 of them and 50 of them have answered X squared. And I'm thinking, shoot, maybe I should have only taken away 2 points. They did get X squared after all. And if I was grading by hand on paper, I'd have to go back and make that adjustment for every student. But what's wonderful about Gradescope that's going to save you a ton of time is I can come in here and say, you know what, let's just change that to 2. Not only did it change it for this student, but it went back and changed it for all the other students I've graded as well. So your rubrics aren't set in stone. As you continue to tinker with them, it will go back and update all your students for you. So a big, big time saver there. There might be a couple of things, just chat going back and forth. So at this point though, I'll hit Z, move to my next student's answer. This student didn't attempt, so I'll hit 5 and 6 to watch the video and hit Z. This student's missing the half and the C, 4 and Z. Likewise with this student, and you can see just how quickly I can start grading once I've built out my rubrics and I start using those keyboard shortcuts. If you have a student who does something like this, it's no problem. If they have scratch paper, go ahead and load the scratch paper in with their submission. If they're submitting it online, tell them to go ahead and load their scratch paper in as well, because you have the ability to flip through pages. I can go find their scratch paper. I can see they answered it correctly. I can go ahead and mark them correct and hit next ungraded and just keep moving. So very easy to do. So let's jump over to our student side. This is what a student dashboard looks like. They'll see all your assignments. They can submit to assignments. In this case, I can see that I got my assignment back and I received 8.5 out of 12 points. So all I need to do as a student is click on that assignment, open it up. I can see how I was scored. I can see my submission. I can flip through my pages. If I click on the question itself and open it up, now I can see the entire rubric. I can see why I received the grade that I did. I can see any of those comments or annotations over here on the left. And all I need to do as a student is just keep clicking through my questions and I can see those rubric items and just keep moving through. Now, one other thing that's available to students by default is this request regrade button, but they can only request regrades at the question level. You'll notice if I close out this question, it tells me I have to select a question. We don't want students thinking, you know, I just need 3 points to get a B- in this class, so I'm just going to request regrades and hope for the best. No, they actually have to dig into the assignment. They can choose a question. They can click request regrade. They can put in their request, click request a regrade, and it will email whoever graded them, letting them know there's a regrade request, and it will flag it on the instructor side. If you want to turn off regrade requests, you can. That's not a problem. But that's how easy it is for them to request a regrade. Okay, so but that's how easy it is for students to take a look at their graded assignment. Now, if you don't want to make graded assignments available to students, you don't have to. We have some instructors that never make them available. They just want to use Gradescope to grade and move their grades from Gradescope into Canvas and never make assignments available to students. You can do that. By default, it won't just make it available to students when you've graded it. You actually have to click a publish button and then it's available to students. So you have that option too. If we jump back over to the instructor side, I'll show you really quickly here, and I'm sorry, I'm going to bounce around on you just a little bit. Over here on the left, when you open up your assignment, you have a regrade request button. If you click on that, that's where you can see all your students' regrade requests. All you have to do is click on the review button. It'll take you right back to that grading functionality we walked through. I can click regrade requests. I can view their request. I can respond back to them. If I think they deserve extra points, I could give them a specific adjustment for just that student. If they've actually brought it to my attention that there was an error in grading, or maybe something was just too confusing, it's still not too late for me to come in here and edit my responses. So maybe this question was really confusing and this answer specifically was confusing. And I'm thinking I took away a point for everyone who answered with this rubric, but maybe I want to give everybody an extra half a point because it was confusing. I could come in here and just change this to 0.5, thereby giving everyone a half a point. And it updates everybody at the same time. And I can add more information or links to my rubric items, and it will update all the students at the same time. So if you have a regrade request and you're thinking, oh no, I'm about to get 50 more of these, it's very easy for you to jump in ahead of time, make those changes, and get ahead of it before you start receiving more regrade requests.
We do have a couple of questions. One, can you grade extra long assignments that are perhaps greater than 10 pages? So these are all engineering faculty, and some of them have students do long engineering reports. So is there a length limit?
I think the limit is 100 megabytes. Let's see. So where's the repository for the graded hard copy exams? Canvas or Gradescope? These would be kept in Gradescope. For example, changing points deductions after an exam, is there traceability to show those types of changes? So one thing you would have is after you've graded your assignments in your review grades tab, I don't have it. Let me see if I jump back to this course here. I think it might be set up in this. give me 1 second here. Under review grades. Yes, if you have it linked to your Canvas account and your Canvas assignments linked, you would actually have a post grades to Canvas button. So you can simply send your grades from Gradescope into your Canvas gradebook. This isn't automatic. So if you did make changes and grade changes, you need to come back in here, click that post grades to Canvas, and it will update them for you. As far as a change log, there's not a change log, however. The other thing I want to show you here are statistics that are available to you inside Gradescope. So let me click on this assignment here. Right underneath the regrade requests, you have a statistics button. If you click on that, you can actually see how your students averaged on each question. You can see the minimum, median, maximum, mean, and standard deviation. Again, here on the right are those question averages. If you actually click on a question itself, you can see how your students averaged on those rubric items as well. So maybe bringing to your attention something they're struggling with, something you want to hit a little harder in lecture, that type of thing. You also have the ability to add what we call tags. So you'll notice for this question here, I have a chapter tag, a learning objective tag, a difficulty tag, and a discipline tag. To create a tag, you just need to click on this line and start typing. We'll start saving them for you here in a little dropdown so you can add them to other questions when you need to. But once you've created your own customized tags, if you scroll up here to the top right corner, you can click on this show tags button. And now you can see how your students averaged on your tagged items as well. So again, maybe something they're struggling with, maybe you're dealing with accreditation and learning objectives, you can create any tagged items you want. And if you're using bubble sheets, in addition to this statistical information, it would also give you item analysis and give you discriminatory scores for those questions. So you can discriminate between those students with knowledge to those that were just guessing. So you have a little bit extra there. And we're also going to be adding more statistical information to our bubble sheets going forward as well. Now at this point, the last thing I want to walk through, and I know I'm kind of getting towards the end, but this should take about 5 to 7 minutes. I want to walk through creating the assignment we just graded because someone had asked some questions about that too. So in my assignments tab, I'm going to come down again and click on create assignments, and I'm going to choose exam quiz, and we're going to recreate the quiz we just graded. So I'm going to go ahead and click next. I need to give it a name, so I'll call it quiz delete because I need to delete it later, but you'll name it whatever you want. I need to add a template. My template is just my blank quiz, the quiz I'm going to hand out in the classroom. So I'm going to click select PDF, and I'm going to go find my template and open that up. Now this is going to be instructor uploaded because students are completing this in the classroom and they're passing it back to me. And I have a stack of papers and I'm going to load those into Gradescope. I could choose student uploaded if I wanted to, and students would submit it through their Gradescope account. And then I would have a handful of other options in here. But I'm going to go ahead and choose instructor uploaded because this is going to be a classroom quiz. I think there might be a question here. 1 second. Will you be able to demo explaining how to grade programming assignments? I can show you an example if we've got time, and that's okay. But I'm also going to follow up with an email that has links to all the other assignment types, and you can watch a video on that too if we don't have time. But if we've got time, I can definitely show you that too. Okay, so I've chosen my options. I'm going to go ahead and click create assignment. And now it's taken me to creating my outline. Remember when we graded, we jumped ahead to grading submissions, but now I'm at creating my outline. And here's my blank quiz, the same one I'm handing out in the classroom. So what I need to do is create a question in Gradescope for each question on my quiz. So I'm going to click this new question button over here on the right. And my first question was the integral of X. So I'll just call this integral and I'll say it's worth 3 points. And if I want to create sub questions, I can with this little plus sign. And then I'm going to move this box to where I know my students are going to answer. This is where it's going to zoom in for me when it's time to grade. So then I'm going to click new question for my next question. And I'm going to type in derivative because that's what the question's about. And I'll say it's worth 2 points. And then I'm going to move this box to where I know they're going to answer. And it doesn't matter if boxes overlap. I was working with a Spanish instructor who had about 50 lines on one page, one after the other for conjugating verbs, and had a box for each one. And they all overlapped. Don't worry about your boxes. This is really for you and what you'll see when it comes to grading. If you don't want to click new question every time, you can just click right into the page and create a box. And then over here, I'll call this map and I'll leave it at 1 point. I want my students to draw the Lewis structure for CO2, so I'll create a nice big box for them. I'll call this CO2 and I'll make it worth 4 points. And then my last question is a select all type question. So I'll create a little box for those folks and I'll call this noble gases and I'll say it's worth 3 points. And that's it. I've now created a question for each question on my quiz. Now, because they're completing this in the classroom, obviously they're going to put their name and ID on this paper, or maybe just their name, whatever you use is fine. So what I want to do is I want to click this create name region button, and I'm going to put this box where I know they're going to write their answer or their name. And since I have an ID field, I'm going to create an ID region 2 and put that box where I know they're going to write their name. If you're not using an ID, it's fine. You can just stick with name. But what the system's going to do is it's going to search these fields using handwriting recognition to match up your student submissions with the students on your roster. And it does this for you automatically, and it's very good at it. You'll see how that works here in a second. So now I've completely completed my outline. So now I can click Save Outline, and it's going to move me from creating my outline to managing my scans. So I'll click Save Outline. Now I'm at managing my scans. So let's imagine your students have all handed in their quiz and you've got a stack of papers in your hand. What we want you to do, if you can, if your scanner can handle that many pages, is go ahead and scan them all in at once and create one giant batch of all your student submissions. Something that would look similar to this, right? Here's a PDF of one student submission after another, after another. Whatever your scanner can handle. But if it can only handle maybe 20 pages, you can create 5 batches of 20 and you can load them all in at once. But again, whatever your scanner can handle, try and save you some time. So I'm going to go ahead and click Select PDF Files, and I'm going to go find my batches, the same one I just showed you. And I've got two batches of 20 pages. So I'm going to select both batches, and I'm going to go ahead and click Open. What it's going to do now is load those in. It's going to separate them into separate pages, and it's going to find split points between each submission. Now, one of these, it won't have any problems. The other one is actually going to tell me it's unable to confidently auto split because it's going to find an issue that we need to take a closer look at. But you can see how quickly that just went through 20 pages. So these have 10 active submissions. These are good, but this one I need to take a closer look at. So I'm going to click the Show button. And I'm going to scroll through these submissions. These all look good, correct amount of pages. Here's the issue, that student that had that scratch paper that we saw. Now I can see this page is blank, so I'll go ahead and remove it. If I need to move pages around, I can. If I need to merge them with previous submissions, I can. But I want to see that scratch paper, so I'm going to leave it. So it actually did a great job of splitting them up. This one was just a little different than the others, so it wanted me to take a closer look. But upon review, I can see the rest of these all look good too. So I'm going to go ahead and tell the system, go ahead and create 10 submissions. Now I have 20 active submissions. So now I can click the Manage Submissions button down here in the bottom right corner, and that's going to move me from managing scans to managing submissions. Now what it's going to do is it's going to go in there and search that name and ID field, and it's going to assign those students to the students on my roster. You can see now it's almost gone through all 20 of them. Now, obviously, some students have some issues with penmanship, so it's not going to be 100% probably most of the time. But you can see it did a great job here for Paul is matched with Paul, Rose with Rose, and so on. But I do have 3 that are unassigned. Here's the first 2. Now, I can go scrolling for them, or I can just click the unassigned button and it brings them all to the top. So I can see this is Hilda Wynn. I'm going to click Enter Student Name, and I can scroll, or I can just start typing Hilda. I've got 2 Hilda Wins. So I'm going to go ahead and match her up with this one. Here's Byron Washington. I'll click Enter Student Name. Just alphabetically, he's right here. So I'll go ahead and choose him. And then Darlene Pearson. I'll click Enter Student Name and start typing Darlene. Oh, I can see her ID number doesn't match the ID number on my roster. I don't know why that is, but I know this is Darlene. So I'll go ahead and match her up. And that's it. Now I have 0 unassigned. All 20 students have been assigned. So now I can hit grade submissions. It'll move me from managing submissions to grading submissions. And now we're right back where we started earlier. Here's all the questions from my outline, the point values. All I need to do is choose the question I want to start grading. And we're right back to where we started, ready for me to start grading. And that's bubble sheets work that same way. So if you handed out bubble sheets in the classroom and they handed them back to you, you would scan them in and the system will automatically grade it for you. I think there's something in the chat. Is there a maximum number of students that can be in a class? No, there's not. But that's how easy it is. So that kind of brings me to the end of what I wanted to cover today. So any questions at all or anything else? I know someone wanted to see a programming assignment. I can show you an example of that if I've got the time.
Sure, yeah, go ahead and take the time. I know we do have one faculty member here who has done some programming assignments. And so if he would like to chime in as well, but feel free to take the time.
Sure. Well, and that would be great if they want to say anything, because one thing I'll mention here, I'm not a programmer. I don't know how to code. So I won't be able to walk you through the process of creating what we call our auto grader, but I can show you an example. So let me head back. I'm going to jump into a different course here and go to my assignments tab, and I'm going to click create assignment, and you would choose programming assignment, and you're going to scroll down and click next. You're going to give this a name. I'll just call it homework. You can enable anonymous grading. If you want to, the system will swap out the students' names with random numbers and letters for you for this assignment if you want to. And then we have auto grader and manual grading. So the auto grader allows the instructor to submit the correct code to Gradescope, and then it will run against the student's code and automatically give them immediate feedback, letting them know about failed tests or past tests. So if I want to use the auto grader, I would just put in a score for it. Let's say I'll make it worth 20. And if I want to manually grade the same way we just did, where you'd actually grade them and build out rubrics like we just walked through, you can choose to manually grade as well. You can do either or you can do both. Maybe you want to manually grade them on style. You can do that. Then you would come in and choose your start date and your due date. You can allow late submissions if you want. You can enable group submissions. Basically, this is where one student would submit, and then after they submit, they would choose their group members from a list of students. And then if you want to create a leaderboard, if you want this to be a competition style assignment, you can do that too. Now, I already have one created to save us some time, but you would click create assignment at that point. But I'm going to click cancel, and I'm going to jump over to an assignment that I already have completed. So just like before, when we created our assignment, we're at editing our outline. Now, in this case, we don't have something to create boxes or anything like that, but I can see my auto graders worth 20 points. And then if I wanted to, in this case, typically at this point, it would, and I'll just close these out, it would be just the auto grader. Now to manually grade, I would just add a question like we did in the past assignment. I can click new question, and I can say, I also want to grade on style, and I want that to be worth 10 points. Right? And then when I grade them, I would build out my rubric with that 10 points, just like we just graded. And if I wanted to grade, I can add as many as I want in here, extra questions. And then when I'm done, I would just click save outline. Once I've clicked save the outline, then it's going to take me to this configure auto grader. Now, this is where I can't get into specifics for you. It's actually, because I don't know how to program or code, I'm not going to be able to help you. But what's here is this link here for our guidelines. If you click on that link, it'll take you to this page that's going to walk you through everything from the overview, how the auto grader works, different examples. Over here on the left, we also have auto grader specifications. This will walk you through everything as well as your output format and JSON format. But everything you should need here. Now, again, if you've got any questions along the way, just email us at help@gradescope.com.
Yeah, and I've also built, a whole class worth of auto graders in Gradescope for our continuing education bridge courses. We were doing some stuff that's not like typical here. Like it's built for Java and Python right out of the box, but we were doing assessing assembly code for our CSE 230 class. So you can set up an environment that has specific tools involved. You can run scripts in that. This guide here is really good, actually, and it's got a lot of templates in it for getting you started. And then you just have to build out what it's going to do for each of the tests, what the expected output should be. If it's just a, like if you run a program and it outputs a string of what it should be and it outputs a string, you can compare that to what it should be. And that's the easiest way to run the auto grader here. It'll compare output of two programs. But you can run anything, either Java or Python, as a script in the background to do that assessment. And it works really well.
Wow, that's really great. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so my understanding is it will work for any languages that run it in Linux. But if you find something that it doesn't, let us know, because I don't think we've found anything that hasn't worked so far.
Yeah, the biggest challenge is part of what you're setting up is a virtual machine for the auto grading system. So making sure that it walks you through setting up your initial one, but if you have special tool sets or anything like that, some basic level of Linux knowledge will be required. But when you build it, it saves it all, and you only have to build it once. And then upload it, and it'll run tests against you. You can do test submissions and stuff like that to make sure that it works right.
Oh, that's really great. Thank you. Yeah, and you had mentioned, here's some of the examples here as well. We can see on Python and Java, C#, and so on. We even have community resources here for you too, where just some instructors from some different universities have come in and shared their auto grader. For example, C++ and R. Some folks at UCSB that have helped us out. So feel free to take a look at all those as well. But yeah, thank you very much for sharing that with me. I really appreciate it. So once you've set up your auto grader, it will then move you to managing submissions. And here I can see all of my students that have submitted. And I can click on this student here, and I can see their results. I can see their failed test in red. I can see their passed test in green. And I can also click on code, and I can actually take a look at their code as well. This is the same view students get. They can see their results immediately from the auto grader, and they can see their code as well. Now, if I move to grade submissions, now here are those questions. So if I wanted to, I can click on that first question. I want to grade them on style. It's going to open up that same grading functionality we saw before, and you can create your own rubrics, and you can score them based on the 10 points that you chose. You can also add comments into any line of their code if you want to, that they would be able to see when they open it up. So very easy to do. Now, the other thing that it does, if we scroll down here, you also have review similarity down here on the bottom left. So if you click on review similarity, this is where you can actually see those students side-by-side comparison that submitted to this assignment. So I can see Darlene matched to Vanessa as a top source, Vanessa with Darlene, Caleb with Vanessa, and so on. And all I need to do is actually click on that file, open it up, and I can see Darlene right next to Vanessa. I can see they matched at 89%. I can also see that Darlene matched to Caleb. So I can click on Caleb, and I can see here that Darlene's 118 through 126 matches Caleb's 34 through 42. And you can print these reports if you want to. And you can just move through your, I was a review similarity, and you can move through each student and open up their file, and you can see everyone that they matched to and how they matched. And you can scroll through. In this case, I can see here, and which is further on down. Now, this runs through MOS, the measure of software similarity that came from Stanford, just in case anybody was curious about that. Now, the other thing that you can do here, if we go back to our similarity, you can add template files. So if you have starter code that you want to add in here or something like that, so and make sure that part's not checked against everybody so you don't see a match for everyone, you can add template files in there as well. Now, this doesn't work for every single language. If you click on this options button here, here's where you can see a list of all the languages similarity will work for. And if you didn't want to use the auto grader, you can download their code and run it on your own computer if you want to. But that is the programming assignment in a nutshell. And again, if you've got any questions about that or anything specific, just email us at help@gradescope.com, and one of our engineers will be able to, most likely they'll need to jump in and answer those questions for you.
And Jean, it looks like you have your hand up. Did you have a question?
Yes. Going back to the tagging process that you described, can you tell us, can you actually download the results for the tagging? I may have missed that.
No, you can. So let me show you that here really quickly. Go into my assignments. And then there was another question about regrade. So I'll get to that too. So for statistics, if you want to be able to download this information under the review grades tab, you can actually export all the evaluations, including the marked rubrics for each question, and you can export all their submissions, including all that grading information and statistics. So you just need to access that through the Review Grades tab. Export evaluations is going to give us a zip file as well. And now I can look it up by question. And it's going to give me an Excel sheet that is going to give me a false true for each of those. So let me open that up a little bit, and I can scroll through and I can find my tags here. So I can see for each student and their submissions, which learning objectives came up for them, and also the true false for each of my rubric items as well. Now that's the extent right now of the information you can pull. And we are trying to build out our statistics more and add more usage in there. We're just not there yet, but this is the extent of the report that you can run there. Just for anybody who's interested, this is our roadmap. This is where you can come in if you want to create an account. You can actually add ideas of what you'd like to see. Instructors, users can come in here and vote on them. Here are ideas that are likely to be become a reality. Here's what we have in development, and here's what we have in beta. So if you do have those items that are really important, you may be able to log in here or join in here and scroll through and go find that and vote on it. But that's typically how we've been working through these now, is whatever is asked about the most is what we're going to work on. But I know a lot of people have asked about increasing the ability to customize your statistics and pull out information. So I know that's something we're working on, but I just wanted to throw this in the chat for anybody who might want to save this in case you ever want to take a look at it. I'll show you at gradescope.com. If you scroll down, you can see some other examples from some different disciplines. Here's computer science, where the student had to write in the extra code. You can see examples of rubrics built. Here's an example of physics, math, chemistry, biology, even if it's a written paragraph. Here's an example from engineering, and then also econ. But basically, like I said, you'll see whatever they add to that paper and be able to grade them. But if you're looking for these examples, it's at gradescope.com if you just scroll down. Okay, so for this type of assignment, a templated fixed length assignment, it has to be a PDF. The reason it has to be a PDF is because there is additional grading functionality for templated fixed length assignments. And that is that the system will actually search those boxes you're creating and use handwriting recognition to create groups of answers for you if you want to grade and create groups. This works really well for answers like this: an equation, a formula, a number, or a vocab word, or true, false, or just or a short answer. It will create a group of students that answered 1/2 x squared plus c, a group of students that answered x squared plus c, a group of students that answered x squared, and so on. And then you can grade the entire group with one click of your rubric. Because of that, we need them to submit a PDF, not images, because if we allow them to submit images, they might be too blurry or cropped or off to the side, and it'll just create a separate group for everything it can't read. So for the homework problem set, for variable length scratch paper, they can submit an image or a PDF. But for the templated fixed length assignments, where you're creating these boxes, it's only PDF. If you don't have a Gradescope account, it will automatically create you a Gradescope account based on the email address associated with your Canvas course. And then it'll immediately ask you, do you want to create a brand new course? Or if you have an existing course, do you want to link to it? You can click new course. And in just those 2 clicks, you've just created your Gradescope account, and you've created a Gradescope course that is now linked to your Canvas course. You can then go to inside your Gradescope course. You can go to the roster tab, and you would have a sync Canvas roster button. And you can pull over all your students from your Canvas account or Canvas course into your Gradescope course automatically. And then what you would do, depending on the integration, I apologize, I don't know which one it is, you would create assignment in Gradescope that is linked to a Canvas assignment. And then that's it. And then once you've linked your assignments, then you would be able to click the Post Grades to Canvas button, and it will push your grades into your Canvas gradebook for you. That is pretty much the extent of the integration, the fact that you can sync your roster and sync your grades. There's no way to actually push assignments into Canvas or anything like that. Really, the only information that it's going to talk to Canvas about is linking the course, rostering the students, and pushing grades. But let me go back to this really quick. So this will actually walk you through. Now, again, it's not going to look exactly like your environment, but it's going to walk you through all the steps, everything you'll need. This is the screen where you create a brand new Gradescope course that'll link it for you. Here's the walkthrough for syncing your roster. It's just as easy as clicking sync Canvas roster, and it'll pull over all your individuals. And then creating and linking your assignments. This is where those steps are a little different depending on which version you're using. If you're using this version, then we have this little video here for you. Let me actually open this up. And this kind of walks you through the first step. So over here on the left, it's ahead of me a little bit here, but you would have a Gradescope link that you can click on, and that's how you create your account and your course. And then this walks through, depending on your integration, how to create your assignments and link them. Yeah, once you have that Gradescope link in your left over here, students can click on that too. And when they click on it, it will just launch them right into their dashboard for your course. They can see their assignments and they can click on them and submit to them. If you create linked assignments in Canvas, when they click on the Canvas assignment, it will actually just launch them right into a view like this where they submit directly to that assignment. So it kind of saves them the step of having to go to the dashboard first and pick out their assignment. If you create linked assignments, when they click on those links, it'll open up the submission page for that assignment automatically. But having said that, if you would rather them just have one jumping off point, you can still link all your assignments and then just hide the assignments. And then they would still just access it through that little link on the left and have to scroll through their dashboard and click on it, but then you can still post grades. Or you can do the opposite, where you hide your Gradescope link on the left and just have them click on the linked assignments to open them up to submit to those assignments. So you can customize it that way too. And you don't have to create assignments and Canvas assignments in a certain order. We have some instructors that create their Gradescope assignments, and then at the end of the year, they create a Canvas assignment and link to it and then push their grades over. So you're not bound by a time limit, or it doesn't have to be in certain steps. If you want to be able to push the grades, you just have to have an assignment in Canvas and an assignment in Gradescope and link the two. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Have a wonderful weekend.